Hello everyone, and welcome to another off-road update. The 2024 Gncc season resumed last weekend after the traditional 2-month summer break for round 10 of the 13-race season, the Buckwheat 100 Gncc. After very little rainfall hit the Newburgh, West Virginia area over the past few months, the property received much-needed moisture during Saturday afternoon that created near-perfect conditions for Sunday's event. With just 4 rounds remaining in the championship chase, everyone was fighting for a win to end the season. As a green flag waved for the 3-hour pro race, points leader Johnny Gerard led the field into turn 1 aboard his FMF factory KTM. Around the outside, though, was defending XC2 champion Liam Draper in his debut ride in the XC1 class aboard his Ampro Yamaha. Draper would grab the whole shot. Following him into the woods would be Gerard, Phoenix Honda's Mike Wachowski, Coastal Gas's Jordan Ashburn, and Rockstar Husqvarna's Craig DeLong. 8 miles into the first lap on the 13-mile course, it was whole shot winner Draper still leading the way over Gerard, Ashburn, Wachowski, and DeLong. Following the front 5 were Bowitz Kawasaki's Lyndon Snodgrass, JS7 Racing's Josh Strang aboard his new Beta, Phoenix Honda's Rui Barbosa, Red Bear Kawasaki's Stu Baylor, KTM's Ben Kelly, Max Motorsports Husqvarna's Evan Smith, and Rockstar Husqvarna's Trevor Bollinger. As the riders popped through at the end of lap 1, the same storyline emerged as it had so many times throughout the course of the season. The riders from XC2 on back were setting a fast pace up front. With time adjustment factoring in at the end of the first lap, it was Landers Racing KTM's Gus Reardon leading the overall. Behind him in second spot was Bowitz Kawasaki's Nick DeFeo from the 250A class starting on row 4. Third overall was second from the XC2 class Brody Johnson aboard his Honda. Fourth was former XC2 champion Thad Duvall, while fifth was Liqui Moly Beta's Jonathan Johnson. It would be 6th overall before the XC1 riders were on the board as the front 5 were in the same order. Physically on track in XC1, 4 miles into the second lap of racing, it was still Draper and Gerard, while moving all the way up to third was Snodgrass. DeLong and Ashburn rounded out the top 5, followed by the Honda duo of Barbosa and Wachowski. Kelly, Baylor, and Strang rounded out the top 10, while Duvall and Jonathan Johnson move up to 2nd and 3rd. Grant Davis had moved up to 4th after a poor start, with Cody Barnes rounding out the top 5. Brody Johnson had dropped to 6th, with Toby Cleveland behind him. Jesse Ansley and J-Day off-road regular Brandon Gregoire rounded out the top 10. DeFeo, meanwhile, had caught and passed up the XC3 riders that started a row ahead and was closing in physically on the back of the XC2 class. Five miles later, and the order was mostly unchanged. Wachowski and Kelly had moved past Barbosa just outside of the top 5, while Baylor and Smith followed the Chilean rider to round out the top 10 with Bollinger in tow. And immediately following him was Reardon with a 10-second gap back to new second-place rider Johnson, who had displaced Duvall as Davis was closing in on the West Virginia native, with Barnes still in 5th. As the third lap got underway, points leader Gerard had taken over the lead position with Snodgrass moving into 2nd. Draper had dropped to 3rd. The 2 previous champions of DeLong and Ashburn were fighting over 4th, with Wachowski, Kelly, Barbosa, and Baylor not far behind. Reardon, meanwhile, was on the throttle behind the rider sitting 2nd in the series standings. Davis had moved all the way into 2nd, with Duvall also moving past Johnson to hold on to 3rd, with Barnes and Cleveland right there as well. At the start of the 4th lap, the riders entered the pits. Due to their respective teams' positioning within the pro pits, the running order shifted, but only momentarily. Draper had a slow pit stop where he had to readjust his clutch due to a crash on the previous lap. The overall running order at the halfway point was XC2 leaders Reardon and Davis, followed by Gerard, Cody Barnes, Jordan Ashburn, Craig DeLong, Liam Draper, Ben Kelly, Lyndon Snodgrass, and Rui Barbosa rounding out the top 10. Just shy of the 9-mile mark on lap 4, it was Johnny Gerard leading the way with 2021 champ Ben Kelly in his first race of the year after injury, putting in an inspired ride in second. Following him was Ashburn with Draper and DeLong in 4th and 5th. Baylor had moved into 6th physically with XC2 leader Reardon following in 7th. Davis came through next with Snodgrass and Barbosa closing out 9th and 10th physically on track. Lap 5 and Kelly had moved to the rear wheel of Gerard for the number 1 position. Ashburn and Draper were close behind with DeLong just off the back in 5th. Reardon, meanwhile, grabbing a handful of throttle along the fence line and charged past Baylor for 6th on track. Davis, during the chicane through the pits, picked up the mesh repeater and had no rear brakes. Snodgrass, Barbosa, and Witkowski still rounded out the top 10 on track. With the white flag lap underway, Gerard was beginning to stretch his lead over the XC1 field. Ashburn had moved back into 2nd with Draper following behind in 3rd, while Kelly had dropped to 4th as fatigue had begun to set in. Baylor, meanwhile, put in a charge to jump all the way to 5th physically on track. DeLong was next, followed by new XC2 leader Grant Davis. Reardon had slid out just before the finish line that allowed all 3 riders to move ahead of it. A few miles to go, Gerard, with no goggles, still held the lead by just a few seconds over Draper, who had gotten past Ashburn, with Kelly still in 4th, Baylor in 5th. Davis came through next with Reardon out of sight of his teammates. As the checkered flag fell, it was series points leader Johnny Gerard taking his 6th victory in XC1 and 3rd in a row. Was it enough for the overall, however? Draper, in his debut XC1 ride, finished 2nd, with Jordan Ashburn taking 3rd. Kelly was next in a solid first race back. Baylor came through in 5th, as the crowd watched on as they knew Grant Davis could possibly win the overall. Davis came through the checkered flag to earn his 6th XC2 win of the year. Once timing and scoring had adjusted, it was official. By just 2 seconds, Grant Davis takes his very first Gncc overall victory, and the 2nd time in history an XC2 rider has won the overall.
Yeah, I had to do it. I couldn't let Josh be the only one to do it. I know that, but it was a good day for sure. The first lap, I don't know what I was doing. I got taken out, and I was last place. First time I've ever been last place this year in XC2. And I was just pushing real hard to get back up to the front. And I got behind Stu, and he had some pretty, he was in a good flow, and then I hooked onto him. We caught Gus. Gus slid out, and I got around him, and then I latched onto Stu for a little bit, and then I crashed and lost him, and then my shoulder kept giving out on me, and I kept falling over, but I can't believe this is even happening right now.
The top 5 overall after all was said and done was Grant Davis taking the win ahead of Johnny Gerard, Liam Draper, Jordan Ashburn, and Ben Kelly. 6 through 10 would be Stu Baylor, with Gus Reardon taking 7th with his 2nd place in XC2. Rui Barbosa was 8th, with teammate Cody Barnes finishing 9th and taking the final podium spot in XC2, with Lyndon Snodgrass rounding out the top 10. Thank you for watching, everyone. Round 11 of the 2024 GNCC season takes place next weekend, September 14th and 15th, at the Mountaineer GNCC in Beckley, West Virginia. I'll see you guys there.